Back on NFL Daily. Excited for this conversation. Not sure how this conversation is going to go. I'm looking across the city of Los Angeles at my friend Adam. I'm looking at across the country at my friend Ryan from the Saints Block Party podcast. Yes, some of the most frequent guests of this season. They were on after week 2 when we were talking about Super Bowl aspirations for this Saints team. They were on after Sean Payton kind of dug about 4 feet of the grave for Dennis Allen. And now we're here after, yes, Dennis Allen has been fired by the Saints, and there's no one I wanted to talk about this transaction with more. Adam, you look too happy for another man's downfall. It's like, I'm not gonna say it's like Mardi Gras for y'all, but it's like Lundi Gras. It's like the day before.
He's getting paid $7 million a year with a 26-53 head coaching record. I respectfully, I do not care. I don't care, Greg. I don't care.
Okay, when you heard the news, obviously, it couldn't have been too shocking coming off of that performance against Carolina. What's your, like, we've buried Dennis Allen enough. That's not fun to do at this point. You mentioned his record. Yeah, that's 147th out of 149 qualifying coaches in terms of all-time winning percentage. Now, most of that was with the Raiders, but he was 18-25 with the Lions, which is not great. We can move past it. Look, this is a man who coached up a lot of good defenses for the Saints as a coordinator, but he's the ultimate Peter Principle head coach in the NFL. Good coordinator, bad head coach. We get it. Big picture, they named Darren Rizzi the interim, but I think there was a lot of interesting takeaways from how this transaction was messaged and some of the reporting that's come out about it. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the two biggest things I found so interesting is that Gail Benson has woken up. For the last 2 weeks, she has essentially not been listening to Mickey Loomis and what he's been telling her, how the team's doing, how he's been telling her how Dennis Allen is doing as the head coach. And she went out and talked to players on the side, talked to personnel people on the side to get their thoughts and opinions on Dennis Allen. It seems like she is no longer listening to, I won't say the lies, but maybe the fluffing that Mickey Loomis was doing. And she is trying to be an active owner because as much as she may not be a sports person, no one who has a product wants to continually have their product be seen and look embarrassing. Losing to the Panthers, one of the worst teams in the NFL for the last 3 seasons, was embarrassing. And so she also made the call to relieve Dennis Allen of his duties. This was not a Mickey Loomis call. And the second thing kind of to tie into that, the people that addressed the team after it was told to the team that Dennis Allen was let go was Foster Moreau and Darren Rizzi. Why would the NFL general manager of a team not address the team when this happened? Why was he not there front and center of the press conference and Darren Rizzi's out there? He's going to have his spot on WWL, but I'm not saying Mickey Loomis is going to get relieved of his duties, but there's something happening within that building on Airline Drive, and it's just not I believe the Dennis Allen part of it is just the start of it.
What do you think, Ryan?
100%. He's 100% right. It's refreshing to see that Gail Benson is alive, though, because look, she's been the owner for a couple of years now, since Tom Benson passed. Nobody really knew how she would move in this situation because she hasn't had to really make any moves. Mickey Loomis has been the de facto manager, owner of the team. He's the one that made all the move. She's been encapsulated with her circle. So nobody really knew, we were covering this last night, we were wondering would Dennis Allen get fired? And we thought, look, if he were to get fired after this Panthers game, it would have to be a Gail Benson call. Would she make that call? And she did. She got out there and she talked to the players personally. She went around Mickey Loomis. And I think that just that says so much just right there. It just shows that there's a level of trust that's decreasing just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit as far as running the organization, because Dennis Allen was his guy.
Right. So let's back it up for a second. Mickey Loomis has been with the Saints organization since 2000. So he precedes
24
Sean
years.
Payton. He precedes Gail Benson. Now, you mentioned Gail Benson's only been the owner of the team for so many years. I think Tom Benson died in 2018. I was actually weirdly on NFL Network, on call all that week to talk about Tom Benson's legacy. I read the book Jeff Duncan wrote about Tom Benson just to be ready for that moment. So weird, because they just knew I was a Saints guy and they didn't have anyone. Very weird. So she's owned the team for 6 years. And look, they were married since 2004. So she's been, you could say she's doesn't have a sports background, but she's been in this game for a while. Now, we don't need to get into the whole story of how she became the owner. There were lawsuits between her side and Tom Benson and his daughter from a previous marriage and her kids. And ultimately, in his will, the team was left to her. So she is the active owner. And to me, this is her first real test as the active owner, because when Sean Payton essentially quit, the idea was, let's just keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling with Mickey Loomis. Let's not upset the apple cart. Dennis Allen has a good defense. Let's just keep it going. And everyone decided to do that. And now the question, as you guys said, was she actually going to make a move on her own? And I want to read the statement that Mickey Loomis released on Monday. His statement read, "Dennis Allen is an excellent football coach. This season, we have had an avalanche of injuries. It took its toll. Dennis Allen never offered excuses. He fought each day for his organization and this team, and that's what makes today disappointing. Dennis has been an integral part of this organization's success for the better part of 20 years. He will be missed." I never heard a GM release a statement like that. That felt like he was upset. And when you're saying that she contacted the players directly, there's been various reporting. Nick Underhill at New Orleans Football has reported that. It's been out there in different places, New Orleans Times-Picayune, different versions of this story that, yes, the players were involved. And that's crazy. And that tells me that Mickey Loomis is probably not long for this job. But every Saints fan, Adam, tells me I'm wrong. Every Saints fan is like, nope, they're never going to get rid of Mickey Loomis. It's never going to happen. And I think when an owner does a move like this, it's a sign that she's open to anything.
Going on with that, I've heard not only was Gail Benson canvassing information for players on Dennis Allen, I also heard that she was canvassing information on Mickey Loomis from players, from personnel. And when you're doing that, I'm not saying it's going to lead to something, but the structure, the crumbles and the fractures of trust is definitely there. I kind of felt like Mickey Loomis, to use a Game of Thrones reference, Mickey Loomis was like Littlefinger to Gail Benson. He would go, just lies, job preservation. And at some point, Sansa comes to her senses and just like, no, sorry, just completely just nerdy Game of Thrones talk. But came to her senses like, no, you are not, I don't want to hear it from you because I know you're lying to me. It feels like that's in motion right now within the team hierarchy. And going back to that statement you just read, like I was confused. Was like Dennis Allen fired or was he promoted?
Right.
Like it's such a weird statement. What?
It was almost a defiant statement,
Yes.
the way it was read.
It was. And this is a defiant guy. It's a defiant organization. Look, they stood behind Mickey and Sean Payton through Bountygate, like as hard as they possibly could. Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, look, he was the best man at his wedding. And Sean Payton goes, they stood behind Mickey Loomis. This is a man that helped run the New Orleans Pelicans. Does on some level still, but was on a more day-to-day level. So it's a very fascinating organization to me in terms of how it's run. But it was absolutely defiant. And this is a guy, Mickey Loomis, for what it's worth, we want to talk GM records, 46-61 without Sean Payton at coach. And one of the reasons I bring all this up, and maybe this is getting too nerdy for our listeners, but I think it's really interesting, is there is no way for this organization to move forward, to me, unless it's a total restart. Because the way they've done things in terms of pushing all that cap money into the future, and Derek Carr has a lot of money next year, and there's a lot of contracts that are next year, and there's a lot of old players on this roster, I think it only makes sense to start over with a fresh front office and a fresh restart and a group that's going to be willing to maybe feel some short-term pain. It might be a year or two. It might not be. Like some of the teams with huge dead cap money have been very successful, including the Broncos, like right now. But a team that's really willing to rip the Band-Aid off. And to me, keeping the same guy that's run the team, Ryan, since 2000, how could that be a fresh start?
Exactly. I mean, you got to make a move. Like, will he get fired or will he move into like another, position within the organization? I don't care. I don't care how they do it. But something needs to happen. There needs to be a large organizational change. They need to rip the Band-Aid off. Look, the cap nerds have been screaming about it for years. The Saints keep kicking the can down the road, and I hate that analysis, but to be in a situation like this where we're picking top 5, looking like we're going to pick top 5 in the draft, and use $75 million over the cap next year, that's just terrible business. Like, that's just
right.
terrible.
They've been spending, and to Gail Benson's credit, they've been spending more money in the last 5-6 years in terms of cash than they actually used to back under Tom Benson. It's quite a history because when you think about it, like Sean Payton helped get Mickey Loomis fired. They could really write. This is like some telenovela stuff. You know what I mean? It's all mixed up. And look, everyone's got a little egg on their face. I went back and listened to that Week 2 show just for fun this afternoon because I got to admit, I was looking for a soundbite where I could clown y'all and play something funny or myself.
We stand by it.
You know what? It was more composed than I thought. You guys went way harder on your podcast on Saints Block Party than on mine. That was where Ryan really hit it when you guys talking about Kendre Miller. When you said Kendre Miller was the difference. But when Adam asked, are we Super Bowl contenders or not? And Ryan answered, well, if Kendre Miller comes back healthy.
Kendre rotation, baby. That's the
Oh, man.
You did say they were the best O-line in the league. It just is a reminder how seasons can change fast because they were 2-0, scoring all these points. We thought it was maybe going to be a Derek Carr renaissance. Instead, Derek Carr and his coach have a interesting statistical factoid that Dennis Allen's the only coach to ever be fired in 2 places with the same quarterback.
Unbelievable.
And before the show, we were talking about, the Saints should get Arch Manning in a few years, which would be interesting. And I don't know if you know this fact, Adam. Derek Carr this last weekend tied Archie Manning for losing to the most organizations in the NFL, 31. So I don't know who's the 32nd. I'll have to find out.
The Raiders.
Okay, the Cars could, he could break that record at some point. But I don't know if y'all can wait around long enough to get Arch Manning. That's a while.
It's a while. It's a while, and I will say this. From like what I heard this morning after everything happened, the Saints have their eyes set on either Detroit coordinator, which is funny because Aaron Glenn interviewed for the job when Sean Payton stepped down, and I was told like he blew the Saints organization away for how well he interviewed, which sounds very kind of coded. I think they interviewed him as like a Rooney check mark, and was he actually might be a good head coach. So they're interested in Ben Johnson. They're interested in Aaron Glenn. They're interested in Mike Vrabel. They're going to see how it goes with Darren Rizzi as interim head coach. Just as a fan, I'm just happy to hear those names. Does it mean that they're going to land any of those names? Who knows? But it just needs to shift away from, you got to let the past be the past, and you have to evolve, you have to move on, and this is the first step into that. But like you keep saying, if Mickey Lumis is part of it, it's hard to kind of let go of the past when he's such a prevalent part of the past.
Exactly, because I mean, one of the big reasons the Saints have such a bad salary cap issue and the Saints aren't as talented as they were is the draft, and the drafting has been horrible the past couple of years. Isaiah Foskey, 2nd round pick. Brian Brzee, who looks good, but hasn't lived up. Oh my God! I mean, you can go on and on for days. They have to take a look at what they're doing, the way they're building this team, and really start back fresh at the table and continue to build up. From the foundation, because right now the foundation is just crumbling.
It's tough. They're in as tough a situation as any team outside of Cleveland, I would say right now in the NFL. But they're there. But things can change fast. Like we have seen in the NFL, if you get the right coach, certainly the right quarterback, you can be rolling in year 2. So it doesn't have to be some really long rebuild. But yeah, that Derek Carr doing that Michael Jackson move in the end zone while you were in the crowd in Dallas, that feels like a long time ago.
Dennis Allen after the game dropping some Kendrick Lamar lyrics is like ain't win a game since.
Not a
and
game
the
since.
NFL season is long. Speaking of which, Darren Rizzi has got a coach. 8 games here. Our friend Randy Chavez cut some sound bites from Darren Rizzi. He was their special teams coach. I love the sound of him at his press conference. Let's listen to a couple answers that he had.
Listen, they should be pissed off. I'm pissed off. The fans should be pissed off. The people in New Orleans, the people of Louisiana. No one should be happy. And I think this city deserves a winner. They know what winning football looks like. And, it's our job to bring that back. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. I think we've been doing things around here the same way for a long, long time. And maybe some are good, maybe some aren't. And we can make some changes. So, but there'll be some different things that we do for sure.
Ooh, we've been doing things the same for a long, long time. That was good. This could be fun. I don't know if you guys remember the Joe Vitt era, but he's giving me some Joe Vitt vibes. I love a fiery special teams interim head coach, like when Dan Campbell was the interim head coach in Miami.
Yep.
Like he's got to give you guys some fun, and you got the Falcons coming up, Ryan. This is like your Super Bowl.
The Raider special teams coach for a little bit.
Versace, he was
there.
Fun.
You go.
Versace, yeah. No, I've been calling Rizzi my interim head coach for weeks now because I knew this day was coming, and he just like exude that interim head coach. Just gets the team hyped up for 2 games. You go and win 2 and then lose the rest. Like that's all we're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the most we're gonna get, and that's fine with me. Let's not win too much here. Let's not win too much here. And, maybe get a top 5 pick. I know. Like I hate that type of thinking. Like just losing to get picks. But look, man, this is where we are. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but you want to win Sunday, right? This is your Super Bowl. It's like the Patriots-Jets game 2 weeks ago. That was the Patriots Super Bowl. They just wanted to drag down their rivals into the mud with them. Tell me it wouldn't be fun. I know our friend Spice Rack, Brad Spicer's out here with the fired coach principle. He's going to be believing in your Saints. They're going to be playing hard. When I saw some of those quotes from Honey Badger and Alvin Kamara.
Players are already having Rizzi shirts. They have Rizzi shirts already.
Carl Granderson's putting up Instagram posts of walking into. I mean, I feel bad for Dennis Allen at this point.
Please don't. And here's the crazy part of it. Yes, we want to beat the Falcons, and that is huge. This is quote unquote our Super Bowl. But I want to point out to another little thing in the Darren Rizzi thing, and I don't feel like I'm reading too much into it. When he was asked, the Saints have 2 young quarterbacks on the roster. Could they see them getting looks at them for evaluation for the future? And he said, I envision Derek Carr being the starter for us on Sunday. He did not go further than that. It was on Sunday. So I do think if the season continues to go how it has been, maybe they beat the Falcons, maybe they lose, a cloud or a cluster of games. At some point, you have to see what you have in Rattler in a better situation, with Hainer in a better situation, because you're going to be comparing these guys and you're going to compare them and grading them how of this upcoming quarterback class, the Cam Wards, the Sanders, the Quinn Ewers, because you have to know, do we need to draft one in the top 5, or do we feel like we can go BPA and maybe we could go with who we have in the building? It's a crucial question that they have to know going into the offseason.
Man, I don't feel like they're going to get a good situation for them to play with, and I don't think either of these quarterbacks really have a chance, talent-wise, makeup-wise, to be able to excel in the situation to change any of their draft plans. Doesn't mean they can't be in the mix next year, and you never know. But I have a hard time believing, no matter what Spencer Rattler does this season, that it's going to impact their draft status. But you never know. Sometimes things get freaky with interim head coaches. Sometimes they get them winning. Maybe it'll be fun. Let's actually listen to one more Darren Rizzi sound before we go. This one Randy flagged, and it just cracked me up.
LeBron can drop 60. J.R. Smith can go 2 for 21 like he normally did, and LeBron could, they're still going to win.
I heard that earlier, and I was like, J.R. Smith getting just shots for what?
I think he was saying like the stars can play well, but if your role players aren't playing well, then it's not going to matter. But he sort of stumbled on it. He was talking about Aaron Judge, but that's what I like about interim coaches. You never know what they're going to say.
Man.
They're going to be media trained. Appreciate you guys. It really feels like this was our Star Wars trilogy of the Saints season. Maybe it's the Godfather trilogy, because the third one is just like it's not going right. But we got the highs. We got an emotional loss to Sean Payton, and here we are with big changes. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us on, man.
That's Ryan and Adam from the Saints Block Party podcast. Everyone check out their show. That's it for this one. We're going to be back very soon. It's trade deadline. We're going to put up the show a little earlier. Me, Mike Garafolo, Jordan Rodriguez, responding to all the trade deadlines. So those will come up on Tuesday. And yeah, when the Saints are making big old changes, you know football is back.